Welcome to Seasons Cleanings. I am Shenna Von Kay, your cleaning lady, and today we actually brought in an expert. And his name is Rex Anderson, and he's the owner of Big Red Guarantees Clean, and they do all types of services, but your main service is upholstery?
Carpet and upholstery.
Carpet and upholstery. But real fast, I'm just gonna point out some of the other stuff you do because I think this is awesome. They do carpet cleaning, Oriental Rug Cleaning, Upholstery Cleaning. They guarantee pet odor removal. That is huge.
Absolutely.
Floor cleaning, waxing, and buffing. Mold and water damage restoration. That's a good one. Carpet repair and re-stretching. And then tile and grout cleaning as well. Is that all of them?
That is everything.
That is quite a lot of services.
It certainly is.
I love that though. And because as a cleaner in the industry, we do a lot of the hitting cleaning and everyday cleaning, but there are these services that so many need, and I'm so glad that there are other services out there that do it. So I'm gonna start off just by asking you a couple questions, but one is, with all of the services that you do, what is like your most popular service?
Most popular is probably carpet restretching and repair.
Oh, really?
And I don't know why it is. I think it's because a lot of carpet doesn't get installed properly. But restretching is our probably the second most popular service, followed by Oriental Rug Cleaning.
Wow. I wouldn't have guessed that, but that is interesting. So today on Seasons Cleanings, we actually brought in some couches for us to clean. So we will get to that. Before we get to that though, we're gonna just ask you some questions and pick your brain with what you know in the industry.
Fair enough.
Because you have quite a bit of experience. How long have you guys been in business?
35 years. I started this company in 1985.
1985? Wow. And did you start off with all these services, or
Oh, no.
how did it kind of?
No, I actually started in the janitorial business, and within 2 years I was completely just in carpet cleaning, and since then all the other services kind of followed.
Right. What is the last service that you actually just added?
The last one to be added was the mold and water damage restoration.
Which is big, yeah.
It is big. And actually we've always done water restoration, but the mold remediation took a little special training, and that was the last service we added.
Well, and I was going to ask you, because you're so knowledgeable on all of these subjects, how did you, how do you know all of this?
Trial and error.
Trial and error?
No, I've gone to, on the back of our brochure, you'll see that it lists all the certifications that we've achieved as a company, and many of those are my personal accomplishments. So going to the schools that are offered by the industry, and just by doing a lot of the work.
Right.
You know, you've got to get out there, you've got to make it happen and learn as you go. And over 35 years, you perfect your trade.
How long does it take to clean a couch?
It all depends on the design of the piece. The one we cleaned today, we cleaned a chair that took an enormous amount of time because of the design of the piece. But it can be anywhere from, a sofa would generally take 40 minutes to an hour to clean, depending on the design. And when I talk about design, I'm talking about how many buttons it has.
Right.
Does it have sharp corners? Does it have piping around the cushions? Sometimes we even get sofas with pillows on them, and each pillow has fringe on it,
Yeah.
and that's an awful lot of cleaning.
Oh, yeah. What about buttons? What do you do for buttons?
Buttons, it depends on if it's a plastic button or a metal button. If it's a plastic button, we'll clean around it and it'll dry just perfectly. But on metal buttons, we want to be careful to not leave a damp fabric next to a metal button. It'll cause rust.
Right.
So we use a little plastic tab, and we slice the tab, and we just kind of cone it around the button to protect, to put a protective shield between the metal on the button and the fabric.
So can you completely restore a couch?
Yes. Yeah. Well, as far as cleaning will go, there are some things that can't be
Right.
cleaned, obviously. But you know, if somebody's bleached an arm of the sofa, I can't do a lot with
Right.
that. But I can make it the cleanest, brightest bleached arm that you've ever seen.
I wanted to do a fun little question and ask if you have ever gone and cleaned a couch where you're like, this couch shouldn't even be cleaned, it should be tossed? Has that ever happened to you?
Oh, absolutely.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And there's things that we'll walk away from. Sometimes we'll start to clean them, and we'll start in the worst area. And if the results aren't there that the customer's looking for, we would leave and let them replace it, because there's no sense in cleaning something that's not going to have a good result at the end. So there are things that just can't be cleaned.
And yeah, I've seen that in my houses all the time. So I was curious if it's like that with couches, and if people do want you to still clean even if a couch looks like
sometimes, depending on their financial situation or whatnot, you know, they just want it safe and clean for their children to climb on.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Then we'd go ahead and clean it. They're going to mess it up for years to come anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good point. Have the not so nice couch with the small kids, and then when they move out, then you can get your nice couch.
Yes, exactly. And that's a very common process.
Yeah. So when you guys clean the couches, when you pull up the cushions, what do you do with all the stuff underneath all the cushions?
Well, you collect it. If it's something valuable, you're certainly going to give it back to the client, or you're going to throw it away if it's just garbage. And God knows there's been everything that you could possibly find under a sofa cushion we've found. And a lot of it you don't want to talk about.
Do you guys usually vacuum that?
Oh, absolutely. We'll vacuum down into the crevices. Any place that we can't reach with the hand tool that we're cleaning the surface fabric with, we'll take a crevice tool and we'll clean down into the edges and around the cushion area or around the deck of the sofa or chair, and make sure we get all those little nooks and crannies.
So when you guys enter to a home, how is the process from start to finish to come in and do a couch cleaning?
Okay, from start to finish, we start with a thorough inspection of the fabric. We're going to go ahead and start with a black light inspection of the fabric, and what we're looking for is anything that fluoresces under the black light, which could indicate pet damage or certainly an area of concern where there's something foreign on the fabric. The front of that arm right there, you can see how it glows right there on the very front top of the arm. That's certainly an area of concern. Looks like something's been spilled there, or maybe some pet damage at one time, or maybe just a cleaner that's been used on it. And what he's doing is just going over the entire piece to make sure he has an idea of where the areas of soiling are, so we can give them extra attention when it comes to the cleaning process. And it looks like just mainly the front of those arms on the chair. On the sofa here, it looks pretty clean. And nothing fluorescing on that yet. So one little spot right there in the middle, maybe that's just some lint on the fabric. Nothing of concern on that so far. Also check the back. The backs are a lot of times damaged, especially in a residential situation, by household pets. So even though they're kind of out of sight, out of mind, they can have damage that needs to be addressed during the cleaning process. So we will look at things like, are there tears, are there rips, are there loose buttons? Now we're going to measure each piece. This is what determines the pricing, by measuring the piece to see how wide it is. We'll burn test. We'll unzip one of the cushions, we'll snip a little piece of fabric, and we'll do a burn test. That burn test will tell us what type of fibers are in the upholstery, so we know what kind of chemical to use. And what the burn test does is, the burn test basically tells us, is the fabric synthetic, which is a man-made fiber, which will melt to a hard plastic ball, or is it a natural fiber like cotton that will burn to an ash that powders away when you touch it. That's important because it affects the chemical that we use. On the cotton side or natural fiber, we'll use a low pH cleaner. And what we're looking for is, we're looking at the flame, the ash, and the odor. And those are the things that determine what type of fiber it is. So once we do the inspection and the burn test, we'll be ready to go, And at that time, we'd present the customer with a price quote, and an exact guarantee price quote, mind you. And assuming they approve, we get right to work. The next step would be to pre-spray the item. Areas that are of great concern, we would brush, and then, we would pre-spray it, then brush it, and get it ready for extraction. Pre-spraying is going to help emulsify the soils that are in the fabric, so when we come along and extract it, it can be rinsed freely. He'll be using 2 different products today. The first product he's using is a product called AXL. That's for the natural fibers. And you just spray it on evenly. The areas where the black light picked up fluorescence on the arms of the chair, he'll probably brush those with a horsehair brush. Keeping the wood parts nice and tidy, and wiping off any overspray as he goes. And now he'll spray the sofa with the synthetic detergent, which is a product called Reclaim. It's got a little bit higher pH, which can be used on the synthetics because they're a little more durable. A concern that seem a little more soiled than others, he'll go ahead and brush to really work that pre-spray into the fabric. It's very similar to spraying wash on your collar and rubbing your collar together. We can't rub the fabric together, so we brush it. Once everything's pre-sprayed out, brushed in, we come in with the extraction equipment. We would extract it using overlapping strokes and just make sure we extract 100% of the fabric. Basically what's happening when we clean a piece of fabric is this little tiny hand tool is hooked up to high pressure cleaning solution that's coming through this nozzle and then goes right into a vacuum and up into the machine. So when I seat it against the fabric like this, what's happening on the other end of the fabric, can you see that right there? Where the water is actually penetrating the fabric, and you can see it coming through the fabric, but it's not going all over the place. Now when I pull it off this little piece of fabric, you see that the foam and nothing beneath that fabric is getting wet. So when I pull it off, what happens is that's what's coming out of this machine. That's about 1.2 gallons a minute of fluid coming out of the machine. Yet when it's seated against the fabric, it's completely controlled and goes right back up into the vacuum. What that means is there's a tremendous amount of cleaning that's happening, or exchanging, the water is exchanging the soils or passing through the fabric and rinsing all that stuff out that's in the fabric. So we've taken the time to emulsify it with chemicals, we've brushed it in, and now we're extracting it. And this extraction process is very different than what a lot of folks use, and this is what makes a huge difference in cleaning. And what's happening there with that fabric is exactly what you just saw with the fabric hoop, where the solution is penetrating the fabric but not getting the foam inside wet. So it thoroughly washes the outer covering, rinses anything out that's in there, and leaves the fabric as clean as it can possibly be. If it's a fabric that needs to be groomed, like the one we cleaned on the chair today, we would brush it or groom it with a towel and brush the cleaning lines out, and then set it in front of a fan to dry. And that fan is blowing air at 2,500 cubic feet a minute, so there's a tremendous amount of airflow going across that cushion, and it should be dry in no time. And if it's a large job and you have more than one cushion, we would TP the cushions on a furniture blanket to allow them plenty of time to dry. We'll rotate them as the cleaning process goes on. And then on the main body of the piece, we'd clean it, brush it, and then put an air mover on it right away. So we're drying everything as we go. So it's almost completely dry by the time we leave.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That is amazing. And I noticed when
that's the most important, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's the most important part
Yes.
of upholstery cleaning is drying it quickly, because there are an enormous amount of fabrics are cotton, and excess moisture and overwetting is a concern, and that causes all the problems with
I agree.
cellulosic browning
Yeah.
and yellowing and just muddling of the fiber,
Right.
or with the fabric.
Water, to me, with cleaning, is like your best friend and your worst enemy all at the same time.
Can be, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I totally understand that. I was gonna say something, because I noticed when you guys were cleaning, you also cleaned the legs of the couch too. And I thought, oh, nice detail there.
Yeah, when we pre-spray, it's impossible to not get a little overspray
Right.
on things. That's why we protect the area around the
Right.
sofa from overspray, to keep the overspray off the carpet. But when it gets on the legs or any wood piece, we'll wipe down the wood pieces, just because there's no sense in cleaning the fabric and making that look good and then have the dusty old wood pieces sticking out.
Yeah,
So,
I noticed you got it, and I was like, oh, nice. And then when you are cleaning the couch, how do you know, like you mentioned that you do the burn test to know the material. What kind of would you use on a natural fiber versus what is it?
a synthetic
Yeah.
or man-made fiber.
Right,
Yeah.
yep.
On a natural fiber, we're going to use something with a low pH, something between 5.5 and probably 7.
Okay.
And then on the synthetics, we can use just about anything, but generally the product we use is a product called Reclaim. It's got a pH of 9.5, so it's safe for all stain-resist fibers in carpets, safe for all synthetic upholstery, does a beautiful job. But if you use that same product on a cotton fabric, it will ruin the fabric.
Right,
So
yeah.
that's why it's important to test it, know what you're dealing with, and then choose your chemical accordingly.
Right. Well, what do you guys do about leather?
Leather's a completely different cleaning process. It's the wax on, wax off situation where you use a heavy cleaner and a sponge, and you basically, it's like waxing a car, where you just you put a little cleaner on your
Right.
sponge, you squeeze your sponge to froth it up, and then you buff it in little small sections, just like you're waxing a car.
Really?
And there's a couple processes there. You use your general strong cleaner first, and then you follow it up with your conditioner.
Oh, okay. And then does it usually take a long time to do? Because that sounds like it's tedious.
It absolutely is.
It is?
Yeah, it's tedious, takes a much longer time, and of course is more expensive.
Well, what is, in your opinion, a good material for a couch for it to be long lasting? If you've got like small children or animals and you want a couch that's durable, what's a good material for that?
Olefin or Herculon,
Really?
they're indestructible.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
the absolute best fabric for kids. Anything in the synthetic range, really. Nylon would work just beautifully, but Herculon, or olefin as it's called, is probably the most indestructible.
What do you see more of? Do you see more of like the natural couches, or what's more popular?
Yeah, right now, the most popular is microfiber, and it's almost always synthetic.
Yeah.
But older pieces, and in the nicer homes, you get more of the cottons and cotton blends.
Right. That makes sense. So what do you recommend if like after you've cleaned it, is there anything you can do to like extend the life of it as far as a product, or doing something to continue its
Sure,
life?
not necessarily extending the life, but it could extend the appearance. So it can be Scotchgarded and protected, just like your carpet can be. And we use two different types of products for that: a solvent-based Scotchgard or a water-based Scotchgard.
Oh, okay.
And they're sprayed on to the fabric. That does extend the drying time during the cleaning process when you choose to have that applied, but it
Right.
does impart some chemical and soil resistance to the fabric, which is going to make it stay clean longer.
Oh, nice. Well, how long do you recommend, or how often do you recommend someone get their carpet like really cleaned by the professionals?
Of course, it depends on traffic in your home. If you've got kids, you're probably going to do every 6 months. Pets and kids, that's what keeps us in business. 6 months to a year is what
months to a
most
year.
people do. Annually is probably the most popular. repetition of service, but you know, if it's a couple with no kids in their home,
Yeah.
you know, they could go 2-3 years
Right.
between cleanings, and it would still look beautiful. So
Do you ever set up like accounts where you're like every year around the same time, they know like you're kind of like a consistent clean?
no, but that's a great idea to do that.
Thinking of it. I was like, you know, like sign us up, and every year in October you come and clean the couch.
I've looked into it, but I've never pulled the trigger on doing something like that.
Yeah.
I like to leave it in the customer's hands to
Yeah, that's
call
true.
us, but it's not a bad idea. We should
Right.
work some special discount into it or something.
Well, if I give you a good idea, I have to say that I love that you guarantee you're clean.
Absolutely.
I love that. Explain that a little bit more.
For 35 years, we've offered the best guarantee in the business. It's you'll love our service or it's free. And that's it.
Yes.
There's no fine print.
No, I know, I love it.
You've got to feel good about it. You've got to love what we did. Otherwise, I'm not going to be happy. And if I'm not happy, you're not happy.
Right.
And I'd rather give you your money back. And if there's ever a problem, if we ever did anything wrong, which we're humans, sometimes we're gonna make a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
We would fix it and give you your money back in most cases.
Wow, yeah.
Otherwise, most people are willing to have us come out. If there's something that needs touched up, we touch it up for free, and we part ways. But
Yeah.
And everybody's happy. But if
Right.
if ever there's any chance of an unhappy customer, I'd rather not collect the money for
Right.
that.
Yeah, same. And I always say, like, if the customer ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Amen.
But you might see me using that into my business, because I really like the idea of guaranteeing. And I think it's cool, and you see it through. And because at the end of the day, the most important thing is making the customer happy.
Absolutely.
They're spending their money, and you want them to be completely satisfied. So
I'm
you might-
surprised more carpet cleaners haven't caught on to that.
Yeah, well, this cleaning business is going to catch on to that.
Good.
What do you recommend cleaning in between for the client to do themselves when you're not around, just spot cleaning?
Most thing for spot cleaning, I'd recommend staying away from most chemicals. That's the worst thing and the biggest mistake that a lot of homeowners make is they try to clean a spot and they put chemical on it, and it's usually too much and it doesn't get rinsed out of the fabric. So I would stick with blotting. I would stick with a wet towel, gently rubbing, blotting, and even when you're doing a stain, if you're blotting, just kind of just a gentle blotting method where you're not rubbing, but you're doing a little more than just tapping it. Okay, so just work it slowly with just water. And in most cases, it's going to take most things out. If you needed a detergent, I would say use just a minuscule amount of dish soap.
Okay.
Or Woolite would be a good one if it's a natural fiber. And mix it up, wet your towel, not the fabric, and blot.
Okay, and then if they have like like a carpet cleaner or a little handheld one or something like that, is that okay to use?
It's okay if you know what you're doing.
You know what you're doing.
Again, you've got to know what fabric you're dealing with.
Right.
And make sure that your water is charged accordingly. So if you're cleaning a cotton fabric, you must keep your water in the pH range of 5.5 to 7.
Right.
So our water in Omaha is sometimes upwards of 8 on the pH scale, which is getting a little bit alkaline.
Yeah.
So you have to add something to your solution that's going to bring that pH down. So when it dries properly.
Would you maybe recommend using like a purified water?
Purified water would be just fine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was awesome, and I'm definitely going to have you back for those other services to break down too.
I'll look forward to it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for watching. It was so fun to have an expert on there, and I know I learned something, so I hope that you did too. And I look forward to seeing you next time on Seasons Cleaning. Thank you for watching.